Today on Switch to Linux, we talk about Dell launching a version of its computer for Linux even before it is launched for Windows.
You buy the laptop, it comes loaded with a user-friendly Linux distro that has been custom tuned and tested to the specific hardware you bought, which means there's supposed to be zero problems.
Windows sucks, Mac OS sucks, everything sucks other than Linux. And as you can see, I am a proper Linux user now.
There are moments in the technology industry that look minor on the surface and turn out to be seismic underneath. Dell walking into CES 2026 and launching its most powerful AI workstation on Linux before it launched on Windows is one of those moments. Not because of the device itself, not because of the specs, but because of what it says about who made that decision and what it reveals about the deal that Microsoft thought it had locked in with its most important hardware partners. Dell is not a startup making a philosophical statement. Dell is one of the oldest and largest PC manufacturers on the planet. This is a company that spent decades as one of the foundational pillars of Microsoft's dominance. Every enterprise sales cycle Dell ran, every corporate laptop fleet it shipped, every data center deployment it landed reinforced Windows as the default operating system for professional computing. That relationship was not just commercial, it was structural. Dell's success and Microsoft's success were built around each other, which is exactly why what happened at CES 2026 lands so hard. When a company that deep inside Microsoft's ecosystem publicly puts Linux first on its most serious hardware, it is not making a product decision. It is making a verdict. The device at the center of this story is the Dell Pro Max 16, positioned as the first mobile workstation carrying an enterprise-grade discrete NPU. The Qualcomm AI 100 interface card inside packs 64 gigabytes of dedicated AI memory and dual NPUs on a single card.
Dell computer, and this comes from its Foss. And so Linux first, Windows later. Dell launches a Qualcomm NPU laptop on Linux before it launches on Windows.
This is not a mid-range machine with a marketing badge attached. This is the most powerful local AI inference hardware Dell has ever shipped in a mobile form factor. The kind of machine that enterprise clients in healthcare, finance, government, and engineering actually need to run serious on-device AI workloads without routing sensitive data through a cloud pipeline. And Dell launched it on Ubuntu. The Windows 11 version was delayed. The Ubuntu version running on the 24.04 LTS build was available immediately, validated against the hardware and positioned as the configuration to buy if you wanted NPU access from day one. The most capable AI machine Dell has ever built went to Linux users first. That sequence was not an accident. To understand how significant that decision is, you need to understand what Microsoft spent the past 2 years trying to build. The Copilot Plus PC strategy was the most ambitious hardware narrative Microsoft had constructed since the original Windows launch. The pitch was straightforward and enormously expensive to execute. AI features would justify new hardware purchases. NPUs would give buyers a reason to replace perfectly functional machines. Windows 11 upgrades would follow naturally. A new PC buying cycle would begin. Partners would build toward it, market around it, and share in the revenue expansion that followed. Dell, with its enterprise relationships and its scale, was one of the partners this strategy most needed in its corner. The press materials Dell released ahead of CES 2026 tell you exactly how that strategy landed. Dell covered the new XPS 14, the XPS 16, and the Alienware Area 51 lineup. All three devices carry chipsets that competing manufacturers were actively promoting for their AI capabilities at the same show. In Dell's materials, AI appeared exactly once, a single sentence, buried at the end of the boilerplate section that journalists skip and buyers never read.
This Dell laptop is around 8 years old at this point, and I tried running Windows 11 on it. And yeah, let's just say it was not a good idea because it performed horribly on this PC.
Every other mention of AI that Microsoft's partners were racing to include was absent. Dell did not stumble into that omission. Marketing materials at this level go through multiple rounds of review. Every word is deliberate. Dell chose, after careful consideration, to remove the AI story from its consumer product narrative almost entirely. That is a Fortune 50 company publicly walking away from the centerpiece of its largest partner's platform strategy. The message is precise, and it is devastating. What makes Dell's position even more cutting is that it did not remove the hardware. The NPUs are still in the machines. The Copilot Plus compliance components are still present. Dell did not strip out the chips and retreat to older technology. Instead, Dell kept the silicon and discarded the narrative wrapped around it. That is a far more targeted criticism than simply building different hardware would have been. It says the technology is real and the chips are capable. What failed was the story Microsoft sold around them. Partners bought into a marketing pitch that did not move buyers. and Dell is no longer willing to carry that pitch in its materials. The recall disaster sits at the center of why that pitch failed so completely. Recall was Microsoft's crown jewel for the Copilot Plus era. The feature captures a screenshot of the user's desktop every few seconds, then uses on-device AI to make everything the user has ever done on their machine searchable. Satya Nadella framed it as giving users the ability to find any moment from their computing history. The vision was a personal memory system powered by local AI. The reality that emerged within days of the announcement was something else entirely. Security researchers found ways to extract data from the Recall database almost immediately. The feature was storing credit card numbers, social security numbers, passwords, and private keys in unsecured text files. Enterprise institutions began blocking it before it had even shipped widely, citing legal, privacy, and security risks they described as unacceptable. University security offices issued formal warnings. The feature was delayed, redesigned, restricted to opt-in, encrypted, and re-released in a form almost unrecognizable from the original announcement. None of that remediation recovered the reputation. Recall did not become the feature that made people want a new laptop. It became the feature that made people distrust the entire platform direction. Microsoft needed a killer feature. It built a liability instead. The reputational damage Recall caused spread well beyond the feature itself. It attached surveillance anxiety to the entire Copilot Plus brand at exactly the moment Microsoft needed that brand to carry a hardware upgrade cycle. The Snapdragon-based machines at the core of the Copilot Plus lineup are genuinely impressive hardware. They compete with MacBooks in performance and efficiency in ways that Windows laptops historically struggled to achieve. Under different circumstances, this generation of hardware could have been the most successful Windows PC launch in years. Instead, the AI narrative built around it created skepticism, and Recall crystallized that skepticism into something that felt actively dangerous. Microsoft poisoned its strongest hardware generation with a feature that nobody asked for, and that made every informed user feel watched. Partners noticed. Dell noticed. The XPS branding story adds another dimension that deserves more attention than it has received. In 2025, Dell attempted to retire the XPS line entirely, replacing it with names like Dell Pro Max designed to align with AI and enterprise positioning. The developer and Linux community pushed back immediately and loudly. At CES 2026, Dell announced that XPS is returning, and the XPS 14 is coming with Ubuntu support. A Fortune 50 company reversed a major brand architecture decision in under 12 months because the backlash from a specific user community was impossible to absorb. That community was not the consumer mainstream. It was developers, engineers, and technical professionals who had built genuine loyalty to the XPS line specifically because it represented quality and reliability over marketing language. The return of XPS is Dell acknowledging publicly that a product built on earned reputation sells better than one built around AI buzzwords. That acknowledgement lands directly on Microsoft's strategy. The split Dell is engineering across its product lineup reveals exactly where it believes the real AI market lives versus the marketed AI market. Consumer laptops in the refreshed lineup are positioned around battery life, display quality, design, and performance. No AI language, no Copilot hooks, no NPU marketing. Professional workstations are positioned around local inference, on-device processing, air-gapped operation, and compliance-ready deployment. That second category ships on Linux first. Dell has drawn a line between what it calls the real AI market and the narrative AI market. Linux is on the serious side of that line. Windows is on the marketing side. For Microsoft, that categorization coming from one of its oldest partners is more damaging than any analyst report or competitor campaign could be. The market Dell is targeting with its Linux-first AI workstation describes itself in language that maps entirely onto Linux's existing strengths. Professionals who cannot rely on cloud connectivity, environments where data must stay on the device, air-gapped deployments where external network access is either unavailable or legally prohibited, compliance-heavy industries where sending data to a remote server is not a configuration option, healthcare, finance, government, and engineering clients who need powerful AI inference with complete local control. Every one of those requirements is a reason not to build on Windows, which has spent years deepening its cloud integrations, tightening its Microsoft account dependencies, and engineering friction into every attempt to run it without a persistent cloud connection. Linux fits this market not because of ideology, but because of architecture. It was built to do exactly what these buyers need, and Windows was built in the opposite direction. Windows 11 adoption numbers running below Microsoft's projections provide the backdrop against which all of this plays out. The reasons users have been slow to move are practical rather than philosophical. Updates arrive and break things that were working. File operations feel heavier than they did on older versions. Cloud integrations interrupt workflows that users want to run locally. Microsoft account pressure during setup and ongoing use has alienated people who bought their hardware and expected to own their computing environment. The operating system increasingly serves Microsoft's platform interests rather than the person using it. Linux does not need to be better than Windows at everything to win in the markets where this frustration is most acute. It only needs to be demonstrably cleaner, more stable, and more focused for the buyers who are already looking for an exit. For developers, engineers, and professionals running serious local workloads, Linux has been clearing that bar for years. Dell just put its product roadmap behind that reality. What separates Dell's move from a temporary positioning shift is that it landed in hardware and supply chain decisions, not just marketing language. A PR pivot can be reversed at the next product cycle with minimal cost. What Dell did is different. The most powerful AI workstation it has ever built shipped on Linux with validated driver support and immediate customer availability. The XPS line returned with Ubuntu support built into the product architecture. The marketing language across the consumer lineup was surgically stripped of AI content. Engineering teams, OS validation timelines, support infrastructure, and product positioning all moved in the same direction simultaneously. Reversing that kind of alignment costs far more than reversing a press release. Microsoft spent 20 years working to ensure that the default answer to any professional computing question was Windows. The partnerships it built, the enterprise lock-in it engineered, and the OEM relationships it maintained were all designed to make that default feel inevitable. Dell was one of the most important structural supports holding that default in place. What CES 2026 revealed is that the support has shifted. Windows keeps the consumer badge. Linux gets the serious work. That is the outcome Microsoft spent 2 decades and billions of dollars trying to prevent. One of its oldest and most important hardware partners may have just made it permanent.